to like show me what it looks like? Because I don't.
So I could go first.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So with this, we say our fullest name, which is our first, middle, and last name if we have a middle name. Not everyone does. So my name is Emily Francesca Ching Wells.
Nice. What? That's amazing.
Thank you. Ching. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. See, I'm even like disconnected within my own culture that I can't pronounce words correctly. But I have a German middle name and I have a Vietnamese middle name. And which is what my parents come from. My mom is Vietnamese, my dad is German. So they gave me that name. I think Emily was a compromise before Elizabeth, which was too hoity-toity or old-fashioned, as my father said. So Emily, which the meaning behind that is industrious.
Ooh.
Francesca means free or freedom, I believe. Ching means warrior, and it's spelt like how the French spell dog, so it's kind of a weird thing.
Warrior dog.
As well. Warrior dog. And then Wells is the town that my grandpa came from. Maximilian Wells is his name, which is a very cool name.
Sweet.
And as for nicknames, we can also talk about that as well. Like I go by M or Emmy, and I haven't really considered to change my name. Some people say I should go by my middle name, Francesca. It's just sassier.
Interesting.
I don't know. Some people gave me the middle name Jasmine when I was in junior high for some reason.
Interesting.
So that was my alter
just arbitrarily?
ego. Yeah, they're like Jasmine, Emily Jasmine Wells or something. And then I had so it's funny in that sense. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm just trying to think what else. It's just your origin story, and what your name means to you.
Cool.
Okay. And my gender pronouns, she and her, which is always good to get out of the way. Even if it's obvious, it may not be obvious.
That's true.
Nice.
Okay.
Great. Thanks. Yeah, for leading that.
Fantastic.
I'm gonna just take the next reign because I want the focus to be on you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow. That makes me very uncomfortable.
I don't know what I have to like break down, but I guess my full name is Gerardo Jose Ramos. Jose being an extremely Spanish.
I guessed it
middle
was
name.
Jose.
Really? Did you actually?
I think so.
I think I did.
On
Nice.
set. And
that's
you were like,
right. Yeah,
you're
yeah.
right.
Yeah. No, yeah. So I looked into what my name means, and I don't know if there's like a reason why my mom gave me Jose as my middle name. I never liked it. Kind of like.
What does it mean? Away. What does Jose mean?
I'm not sure what Jose means, but I looked up what Gerardo and I think Ramos means. So Gerard, like derivative without the O, means strength of the spear. It's like, I think English, and I don't know what that is to imply about me and my personality.
English, like UK?
Yeah, like UK English. So yeah, strength of the spear. And then Ramos is Spanish, pretty much means branches.
Ooh.
So yeah. Oh, and Jose. Oh, wow. That's an incredible meaning. It means God will increase. What?
God will increase?
That is wild. Yeah.
Whoa.
It's insane. So I'm strength of the spear. Yeah. God will increase branches.
Wow. So and you could make
trippy.
A spear out of branches.
Oh.
It's like you take the spear off of the branch and then God increases the power.
Oh, God.
And then
that's
you
crazy.
wield it.
And I'm meant to be thrown.
You're meant to be thrown.
Thrust into another human being to take his life. Something along those lines.
You guys both have war themes.
We're warriors.
Warriors of peace.
Okay, right. I like that.
Oh, yeah. There's the name.
Beautiful.
Yes, soldiers of love.
I kind of like that.
I do too.
I love that. It's so good.
Soldiers of love.
Yeah, so that's enough about my own. And now for you.
Okay, so my name is Kelsey Nicole McMillan. Kelsey means, it can either mean the ship's victory. So,
also war.
Also war.
Oh, wow.
But the more common meaning is fierce island.
Fierce island?
Yes.
Whoa.
So, yes.
Huh.
That's cool.
Let that sink in a little. And Nicole, I have no idea. I didn't look it up because, I don't know. It's not very interesting.
Do you like the middle name Nicole?
Not really. I think it's because
surprises me. You don't seem like a Nicole.
Nicole.
It's
Yeah,
very,
no.
I just feel like it's very, I don't want to use this word, but it's very basic.
Ooh, okay.
Sorry to all the I think it's because there was girls that I didn't like in junior high that were named Nicole.
Okay, that's fair.
I hope they never watch this.
They probably are.
Yeah, right. And then my last name is McMillan, which means, so Mick means son of, and Millen means a bald-headed man.
Oh, right.
But specifically it means a bald-headed,
Yeah, so good.
it means a bald-headed religious man. So it means
wow.
son of a monk. Is like
Wow.
so yeah, it's like son of, you know, those like Scottish monks that have the ring of hair around their heads and the
Right.
top is bald.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with this?
Yes, for sure.
I think there's a musician that cuts his hair like that.
Oh really?
Really?
Yeah, it seems
That's a
interesting.
look. It's a real look. But yeah, that's what it means.
But you have divinity and warrior culture in your name as well.
Right.
What's going on here?
That's true. Divinity is nice. Yes.
Divinity. Do you
And-
feel tied to that in any way?
To divinity?
Yeah, in any form.
Wow. Sure.
Let's go right into it.
Do you believe in God?
That's not what I asked.
They're
Yeah.
triggering questions.
Right.
Very intense questions.
I have to go home.
Oh, and Nicole means victory, by the
Really?
way.
Whoa. So
Wow.
okay, that's nice.
Victory of the people.
Really? That's what Nicole
Whoa.
means? Wow, it doesn't sound like it means that.
Sure, yeah.
It sounds like it means bully.
Oh, we'll get to that in a second.
Okay. Do I feel tied to divinity?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. I feel like tied to something larger than myself, especially when I'm making things. I feel like a lot of artists can relate to being in kind of a flow state and like having things sort of come through you as you're working if you can get out of your own way. So I relate to divinity in that sense. If divinity is something that surpasses you and is larger than you.
That's cool. Do you have a moment that you can like share about like when you felt that when
Oh,
you're creating something?
I think I feel it when I forget myself. Like when I'm so outwardly focused that I can, whether like if I'm taking a photo of somebody and I'm really focused on them and who they are and I forget myself, then I can kind of feel that come through me because I don't feel like an individual anymore. I feel like I feel the connection more than I feel my own individuality.
Got you. Wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
But I mean, sometimes it doesn't work like that.
Sometimes it's work, right?
Sometimes
it's tough.
sometimes you get in your own way. I would say.
Yeah, it's both parties are involved too because
Right.
if someone has a wall,
Oh, yeah.
you can try really hard to get them to open, but at the end there is a little bit of both sides for sure.
Right. Yes. I guess, should we say like what we are as like...
Yeah, that's actually what I wanted to ask. Is maybe
Okay.
we'd use like a little
I
intro of what.
First question,
Yes.
what's... How
We were supposed to do an intro actually.
It got us there.
Wait,
Yeah.
didn't we do that?
We kind of didn't, but it's okay. Let's do it now.
Okay.
Let's do it now.
Okay.
We do things our own way.
Exactly. Who cares? Great. I'll look into this camera and do it.
Talk to the listeners.
And the listeners, yeah.
To the listeners out there.
Okay, so welcome everybody. Thank you very much for joining our podcast where we look at creatives and their process and what it means to them and dig into their experience a bit. My name is Gerardo Ramos. I'm joined by my wonderful host, Emily Wells. And today we have our dear friend, Kelsey McMillan. Kelsey Nicole McMillan.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, I want maybe like, let's do like a little bit of like an intro of you and your artwork. I know that's like pretty broad and like if someone were to look at you and say, okay, she's this type of artist, what type of artist are you?
Okay. This question gives me an existential crisis.
Then we
Right.
started perfectly.
Right off the bat.
Perfectly.
So I don't really have a primary art form. I like to bounce between different things. Professionally, I would say I do a lot of photography. I do a lot of design work, which I know is not necessarily art, but we could talk about that later.
It is. Totally.
Yeah. That's like, I feel like that's very close to the functional end of art. So I do that. I also do, I do some painting. I do some writing. I like to play music, but that's like my most secretive, like just for me art form.
Nice.
So yeah, I think the phase that I'm in right now is sort of exploring different mediums and figuring out what resonates with me. But I have a very hard time committing to one thing.
Okay. Do you want to hear what we think? What kind of artist you are?
Oh, yes. I sure.
Interesting. I kind of want Emily to go first.
Okay.
You're just putting me on the spot here.
Have to.
And
Who do you think I am?
I think you are an art angel
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
with
Art angels.
so many brilliant contradictions
Ooh.
and multifaceted, complex skills. And no, I see you as definitely a visual artist, because I haven't actually seen you sing before, which I would like to today,
Mm.
Ooh,
tonight,
maybe,
perhaps.
Oh, wow.
maybe by the end of the night.
Yeah, once we get through the Prosecco.
And I see you as a very kind of just an open human that is very warm.
Mhm.
And with her warmth, I think that's an important trait as an artist.
Mm.
As a person who is documenting a human experience, which you do taking portraits, it's important to have that warmth, which you radiate always.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And I do think when you said, you know, we had to choose a path, it's a scary thing. I think we can talk about that, like,
Yeah.
especially in this day where we're given so many choices and you can find content on the web. Like, do we have to choose? And if you had to like select from your first, second, third option, I wonder how that pyramid would look like, at least right now in your point of life right now.
Nice. Yeah. That was like a beautiful answer to
Yeah.
who you think she is.
Oh, thank you.
You're beautiful.
You're beautiful.
I can't match that at all.
I love that we're starting out with like, just like, give me,
Yeah.
Compliment showers.
shower me with attention.
Isn't so
we're building
hot.
you up.
Yeah,
We're
right.
building you up so
That's
that
good.
later on.
So that I can give it back to you.
No, so that we can just bring you down. And so that we can unpack everything you got. So
No.
it's a process.
We're
Right.
building her up so she feels comfortable.
Right.
Totally.
And-
To reveal her
Totally.
deepest, darkest secrets.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I think, like my experience of meeting you was through a camera store, and it was through photography. So that's the lens I always saw you through. In seeing your own artwork outside of that, I could see that, yes, you're so much more multifaceted. You had ways of expressing yourself that were uniquely yours, but consistent throughout these mediums. And I was really impressed, because most people just want to try to be a photographer to gain a buck or to gain popularity or something surface like that. But it felt like it was part of your toolkit, so to speak. So I've always seen you as a photographer, but I knew that was one facet of this beautiful closet of amazing talents you had as an artist. So I remember I asked you if you felt like you're an artist, and it kind of was like a very hard thing to question and digest.
What did I say?
I don't recall exactly, but I mean, I'd love to explore that a bit
Okay.
more. I think if I can just end on this saying,
Yes.
I see you as an artist, and you too, Emily, but we'll get to you in a second.
This is about Kelsey.
The time is coming.
I see you as an artist, and to me, what that's defined as is someone that creates to connect something beyond themselves. And usually that's tied to helping others, whether that's seeing what they look like in a portrait, portraying them a certain way, or helping them express something, like in a logo, as you were mentioning, digital creative work you do. So that's what an artist is to me, to connect to this ether beyond our current daily lives, but distill it down in this beautiful little moment. That's about all.
That's lovely.
Yeah. So yeah, do you feel like you're an artist?
I guess so. I guess I do. I remember when you asked me this question last time, actually. I do, but I try not to think about it, because
That's interesting. Why? Why do you shun away from it?
Because I find, and this ties into language as well, and sort of the way that language puts things into a box. And so you take a human being, an entire person who is, every single person is so expansive and so complex and nuanced. And then to put a label on that, even if it's the label of artist, I mean, whether it's a positive label or a negative label, it's still limiting. So when I think of artist, I have like the highest regard for that word. And I look at people who I really respect and admire, and people who have made me feel things through their art. And if I suddenly have to live up to that while I'm making something, I feel like that it can be quite crippling or paralyzing. So, I mean, yeah, I'm fine if other people want to call me that, but I don't like lead with that, and I don't conceptualize myself that way.
Interesting.
Because I feel like it's kind of a loaded word for me personally. So I try to stay away from it.
In your presentation of like, I'm a person who can take portraits or provide digital media, how do you present yourself then, either online or through any other ways? Like, is it I'm an artist that can do these things, or is it I'm something else that can do these things?
Right. I struggle with this. You know what? Actually, what flashed into my mind is when you have like an Instagram business account and you get to decide what the little thing is.
Yeah.
Wait, what is that?
It's like if you have a business account, you can decide what the little subcategory is. So you could put like visual arts, or you could put photographer, or you could just put artist.
Yeah, yeah.
And like literally, I stared at this list and I'm like, what am I? What am I? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the way that I see myself as a visual communicator professionally.
Nice.
So I help people, I mean, especially with the design side of things, I help people take something that's like messy and confusing and chaotic and organize it into a visual communication that makes sense for other people to understand, like connecting them with their audience through visual mediums. But I don't know that that's artistic necessarily, because that's not expressive.
Not?
It's almost like secondhand artistic, because I'm helping them be an artist, but I'm not expressing my own sort of core or my own essence through them, because that as a designer, you want to take yourself out of the equation.
Could it not be a collaborative art form?
Yeah.
Right? Like, is it then not still some sort of art?
It could be. It certainly could be. I'm not saying that it is.
Of course.
Because sometimes when a client reaches out to you, they may be seen past work of yours that they're like, I like this person because they use a lot of color or they have a certain look.
Right.
Do you feel like you have a certain look, or are you still?
I don't think I do. But I'm sure that if I looked back, there would be some themes for sure. I think there would be like thematic elements, but I really love exploring. And I feel like whenever I'm like, okay, this is my style, I almost immediately get kind of bored of it. And I almost want to rebel against my own style. So, but I do think, I do.
Sorry.
I do think that when like people will hire me for different reasons. They might like a lot of people will like go on social media and then hire me because they like my perspective, or maybe they'll hire me because, their friend used me and it turned out good. Like, so I don't know if it's always a thematic thing or a style. It really depends on the person.
Yes. And a question I think for audience members always is, as an artist, how do you get hired, or how has that journey been towards getting hired? If you can talk about your first experience getting hired or putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. We want to go here.
Are we going
Yes.
here?
Let's go here.
Absolutely. I love this.
This is a question people.
Yeah. We don't have to stay here,
because
but yeah, I think it's
undeniably we do live.
For sure.
I honestly, you just always want to know, like, you know, when people ask each other, how much do you charge for this?
Yeah, right.
How much do you do this for? It's part of the root of that. It's like, how do you monetize this thing you think is art?
Yes.
And is a distillation of yourself, right? So yeah, I'd love to know.
Okay.
What did you charge? What did you do? What did you draw?
$5 for
I actually
everything.
heard a story. Can I tell a
Yes,
story?
please.
Yeah.
Because I heard that you or a company asked you to shoot for them,
Yeah.
and so you provided them with a quote.
Yeah.
Can I say this
Yeah.
publicly? And then they were like, who does this girl think she is, the queen?
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
Right.
Because I guess you knew your worth, and they
Good.
were not prepared.
You know what's funny about that? So I mean, I'm not going to reveal who this person was, who this company was.
Go ahead, do it.
But no, throw them under the bus. We'll hashtag them in the comment section.
Put their Instagram. Just right. No. Sorry, go ahead.
So what happened with that is that, so it was a restaurant. He wants the wine.
Continue. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank
you. It was a restaurant?
It was a restaurant.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. It was a restaurant. And if you're going to do photos for a restaurant, lower your fucking prices because they don't. Yes.
Sorry, is this food? Is this just their building?
Oh, this is. So, okay, this is where the confusion was because I thought I was taking photos. My contact told me that I was taking photos of the menu. So I thought these are photos that are going to be printed into a menu. These are the photos of different like food items and drinks and stuff that are going to be printed into the menu. So I charge accordingly to that. Because if something's going to be printed, if the client is investing in printing something, they can invest in good photography because it's a high risk for them. They don't want to reprint it. However, these were simply for social media, apparently. So I quoted high for social media photos. But you know what? It wasn't that much money.
Yeah, good.
Can we say numbers?
Oh.
Yeah.
If you feel comfortable.
If you feel comfortable, actually, because...
Yeah.
I think I was charging them for like a full day of photography. So it would have been 8 hours. And I think I was charging them... This was a while ago, so I think I was charging them like $1,200 for the photos. And that would, I think... And then maybe editing on top of that. So, yeah, it wasn't insane. But
it doesn't seem unreasonable.
It all depends on what their expectation is as well, right?
It's hard, I feel, as a photographer because there's so much competition.
Yes.
And there are people willing to do it
for less.
Yes.
So
right.
Never, I mean, my policy now, and I did not always stick to this, is never offer a discount because the amount of times that I have quoted somebody a number and they said, it's too expensive for me. Can you give me a discount? And I said no. And then they still said, you know what? I still want to do it. The amount of times that has happened it's a lot. And I think that you gain a little bit of respect from the client when you do that.
Yeah.
So, but that means you have to quote appropriately because otherwise you're going to never get a job. So you have to just kind of nail it with the first quote. But maybe I could talk about my history into getting paid.
Yeah. Let's pause there. Let's pause. I want to know just about you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to go back to your childhood.
Oh, wow.
To when you started drawing on things and said, oh, this is connecting with me on a different level. I want to go back to when you were just by yourself creating.
Okay. I like that you know that I was by myself because
we'll come back to it later.
I think everyone is, right?
I guess so.
I think so.
I guess so, hey? Okay.
Sorry, but let's dive in.
Okay, so I grew up out in the country, south of Spruce Grove. If we
need a story of how you came into this world. How do you imagine, like, from your conception of like entering into this world?
Whoa, like spiritually or like mechanically?
Both. Maybe they're linked.
I mean, I'm the first child of my family. Yeah. Yes, my parents both grew up in Alberta. Yeah, I was born in Calgary, and then my parents are both entrepreneurs, and they bought a small business in Edmonton. So we moved to Edmonton when I was about 11, out into the country. So I was like a city kid until the age of 11 or so. Yeah, and as a kid, I was always drawing and later taking pictures. So when I was maybe 13, my dad gave me his old Canon AE1 film camera.
Cool.
And I loved nature, like as a country kid. It's not like it is now, I think. I mean, I was given free rein to just kind of do whatever, like just go down to the river and stay there until like the sunset and then find my way back in the dark. And my mom was like, cool, like you're alive. That's sweet. It was very hands off.
Right.
And I would spend a lot of that time just sort of in like a daydream state. I feel like you were probably you guys were probably both a very daydreamy child as well.
Maybe. We'll get to that.
Okay.
Continue.
Okay. I feel that. So yeah, I would just kind of explore nature and like make little drawings. And when I got my little camera, I would like take photos of my dog and my cat and just like anything. Actually, recently I found this little roll of film. I just found a roll of film like in my apartment, just kind of strewn about, and there's no date on it or anything, but I went and got it developed. And it was the first roll of film that I had ever shot as a human.
Wow.
Like the first photos I had ever taken.
How remarkable.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was 13 when I took them.
Nice.
And they're so cute. They're like, it's like a picture of my dog, a picture of my mom, like just the things that were important to me at the time.
Interesting.
You know, because you're not thinking about like
Actually, we always take photos of pictures that are important to us.
Right. That's so true.
Good point.
I just feel like now when I take out my camera and I like see my dog and I go to take a picture of my dog, sometimes I'm like, really? Like, you're going to take a picture of your dog right now? Like, how trite. But when you're a kid, you don't do that. You're just like, yeah, here's my little puppy. Take a picture of him. Yeah, so I did that. And yeah, I shot with that camera for years and years. And then I went to, when I moved into the city when I was 18, I went to Grant MacEwan, which is they have a design program there. Yeah, so it was like the Orange campus on the West End. They had all the arts sort of sectioned into one campus. And I went into design not knowing what it was. I just knew that it was artistic. And yeah, it was between that and the writing program. So I had to kind of choose, and based on zero knowledge, because when you're 18, you don't really know. So yeah, I went into the design program. I initially was going to go into illustration because I wanted to get better at drawing. And when I was in my first year, I had to take a foundation photography class. And one of my professors, the professor who was teaching the photography class, really liked my work. And he's like, oh, you should just like switch into the photography major. And I didn't know anything. So that's all it took for me to be like, okay, I guess this is what I should do. So then I did that for 2 years. And then after that, I worked at Henry Singer, which is like a men's clothing company. And I did design and photography for them. And I didn't find it fulfilling near the end because it wasn't very challenging. So I was getting kind of freelance clients on the side. All of them were referrals through school still. Nice. And so, yeah, I just saved up enough money and quit after, I think, a couple years of working there. And then I've been freelancing since then.
Wow.
Yes.
Amazing.
There's my life tale.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's an incredible journey to get to a point where you could say, I'm going to do this just full-time, freelance full-time.
Yes.
That's scary. Were you scared when you made that
decision?
Definitely.
Wow. It's funny because I wanted to do it for a little while. And not that it was a bad place to work. Like, it was really, really wonderful. It's just that it wasn't right for me because it wasn't like creatively fulfilling, as creatively fulfilling as it could be.
Okay.
So yeah, I actually, I went traveling. I went to Paris and Iceland. And then on that trip, I was like imagining going back to my like fluorescently lit cubicle office. And I was like, there's no way that I could do that. Like, I could just feel my heart like shutting down from that idea.
Interesting.
So yeah, when I got back, I gave my notice. So it wasn't like bravery or anything that like made me go off into the freelance world. It was just discomfort with where I was at that propelled me into the abyss.
And bravery. You are so humble.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that takes a lot of courage. I personally haven't, like, I was dabbling in freelance for a bit, but I could never go full hearted into it. It just felt like it was maybe something I didn't want to do full time. But
right.
Yeah, I mean, that takes a huge amount of bravery to just go and do it.
Thank you.
And to succeed. Because I tried for like 6 months, and then I was like, I can't sustain this. So I did get a job at a nonprofit that I find fulfilling. It does take up a lot of work though. And I also feel there is a lot for me to learn in regards to maybe going back to school because I am not professionally trained in photography. It's all through experience. What is your perspective on self-taught photographers and then photographers who have gone to school.
That's a good question.
Nice.
And what you learned. What are some valuable skills you think you learned from that program?
Okay. I'm excited about this question. The main skill that you learn in school, from my experience at least, in the design program, is the ability to so imagine you have a project, right? You put your heart and soul into this project. You put everything you have into it. You try your best. You spend weeks on this project. And then you print out your photos or your design or whatever. You put them up on the wall in front of your entire class, including your professor. And every single person in that room takes turns ripping it to shreds. Like absolutely ripping it to shreds.
That's beautiful.
That's
beautiful. No, that's so valuable. But
it's so valuable.
Continue, yeah.
Because you don't you just stop being precious about your work. And I think that this is very much a design mentality, and I don't know how much it crosses over into art, like whatever. I don't know what this sort of delineation is there, but it makes you realize that just because you think something is good doesn't mean that it translates, especially with design, because there is a goal. That's sort of the difference between design and art, I think, is that with design, you had a clear outcome or a clear desired outcome. Like if I design a poster, it has to communicate something to somebody. It has to successfully get that message across. And if it doesn't get that message across, it has failed. So it's a little bit easier, I think, to critique design or like commercial photography maybe. But I still think that the skill of like distancing yourself from your work is really helpful, because when you first go in there, when you first like go into the critique room, and this is like almost every day, by the way, that you're getting critiqued. When you first go in there, most people that go into the design program are like, they want to be an artist, but maybe this is just me. They want to be an artist, but they also want to make money. So it seems like a good kind of happy medium. So you go into this program with like your little like innocent artist spirit and you're like, I want to make things that look cute and like look good and like express myself.
And then they shit on you.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like the amount of people that cried and crit is off the chain.
Oh, really?
For sure.
Do you have a story of that?
Oh, but I mean, no, it's just exactly what you would imagine.
Okay, yeah.
It's like everybody, it's like you can just watch the body language of the person who is getting the criticism, and you know that they've associated themselves with that piece of work.
Interesting.
So they feel like you're attacking them on a fundamental level. So eventually you'll learn to sort of like cut the umbilical cord between you and your work so that it doesn't hurt as much when people tear it to shreds. And then I think that's helpful. I think it's just helpful as an artist too, because it's almost like the way that I started to conceptualize it is like once I've like birthed it, it's not mine anymore. It just lives in the world.
Interesting.
I think you would be a great mother.
Thank you.
yeah, it's not yours
Too
anymore.
many parents take on their wishes of how they want their masterpiece or their child to turn out, and then they end up taking every action that their child does becomes like a personal attack against them.
Well, yeah. Wow. I love that. Can we stay there for a second? I love that about like feeling personally attacked, because I know, reflecting a lot of my own work, and when I got criticism like that, it was very much like, oh, I'm not good enough.
Right.
I'm not worthy of doing this.
So that comes up so much.
Does that still plague you? How do you come up against that and work through it?
Oh my God, that's like the main thing I come up against.
Yeah.
Yeah, worthinness. Like
what's the last time you felt that?
Today. Like probably in this conversation. For sure. Like how many times a day do you judge yourself for anything that you're outputting? And I include conversation in that too, because it's a creative output.
Interesting.
Where you just have a little flash of like, that was stupid. That sounded weird.
Right. Okay.
Or like, but you can amp that up all the way to like, there's been times when I've tried to do like a painting, for example, and every single brushstroke is like self-loathing, just like manifested. And it's weird. Like, you can kind of pay attention to that voice. And this is what I try to do in anything that I'm doing artistically, is like ground myself in the experience. Sorry, am I not close enough to this?
Yeah, stay close, like an inch away. That's good. Yeah.
Ground myself in the experience, and then let the thoughts kind of come as I'm working, and try to observe them in that same kind of impersonal way. So, and then when you do that, it's like, it's like scary. I mean, I don't know if you guys have experience with this, but like just, and who knows where these voices are really coming from, because they're sort of disembodied, right. But you know, you could be working on something and the voice is like, who do you think you are? Like, really, you're going to do this? Or you're not good enough? Or something that comes up for me a lot is like, oh, you should have practiced more because you don't know what you're doing.
Us right now. Me, I'm like, I should have rehearsed my questions.
Right. As if everything that you do is not practice, as if this is not practice.
Right.
It's like everything is a performance to yourself. That's not true, but it feels like that sometimes.
Yeah.
Like we always have to be on our A game. So yeah, I feel like art is really good for kind of sussing out worthiness issues, because I mean, I think I look at people who, I've known people in my life who are not artists, and when you ask them to create something, even if it's something as simple as writing their name or like singing a little tune, they won't do it. They can't do it. It's because it's too triggering. Like that voice gets activated. So I like to make things so that I can activate that voice and then be like, I'm rebelling against this voice. I'm still going to do it anyways and sort of disprove it. But yeah, I feel like this is the main thing that I think about in art.
Yeah, I feel like compelled to share this in my own like cinematography career, if you can say that. I had a moment where I was shooting a thesis film for a friend up in like northern Ontario in a lake, and it was just us there, like a secluded property, and we would shoot just there. And I was like pretty much like a one-man band. We had a few helpers, but I was out there on a particular scene, and it was just the two lead actors, and they were supposed to be nude. So it was a little more like, you know, intimate, a little private, a little odd. I'd never done that before. And as I was filming them, in the moment I couldn't like sense this like, oh, this is becoming something unique and something beautiful. But I kind of like progressively felt like as we watched the thing back, I was like, oh, this is taking a life. Like I don't feel like I planned it to look like this. It feels kind of, I don't know what you would say, like, a little surreal, a little like, you know, it was unplanned, but it's still like this beautiful creation. And I remember this one moment, I actually like, it felt like it almost like overtook me. We were looking back, and I was holding the camera against my body, and they were like looking over me, and I was just like playing it back. My body just started shutting down. Whoa. And I had actually been like just pushing myself to the brink. Like we were shooting every day, sleeping like not a lot, and just constantly going. So this was like midway through all of that. And I just felt like I'd never fainted. I never had that happen. And like my body just like shut down. Whoa. And I remember going down to like the ground and just like hunching over the camera. And I was just like, blah. I was just like a mess. Right. And then I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't feel anything. It was just dark for like, I don't know how long, but I could slowly, after a while, hear their voices be like, Gerardo, are you okay? Are you okay? And then that started creeping in, coming in. And I'm like, moving and starting to come to life, feeling my limbs again. And as I like wake up, I just feel this like, it's so weird to say it this way, but I felt like a bit of like a baptism into like that process of like letting something work through you. And I didn't really understand it. I was just like, oh, this is something bigger than me that just happened. And we looked back at the footage again, and I was like, not that I don't remember taking that. I was just like, I didn't frame it that way. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. You know, I almost felt like it was too good to be true. And that was a wild moment where I felt this kind of, I felt all of these insecurities that I'd once had about, oh, I don't know if I'm even good at filmmaking. Should I even be holding a camera? Just be like, hey, you're a vessel. Like, open up to what this is right now, and it'll be beautiful. Right. You know?
I love that.
I don't know why I had to share that. But
I don't know. That makes sense to me. That's,
yeah. And I think that could lead to Kelsey talking about if she's had a similar experience, or maybe a turning point for you, or I'm not sure if it was before you went into the design program, or while you were in the photography program, or while you worked with someone that you felt like, oh, I could do this.
Never.
Never.
Well, I mean, I'd really like
I haven't had an intense story.
No.
You haven't?
Gerardo's story is intense.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I like that because it's like, I mean, you kind of got that experience all at once of like an opening. And that's something I think about a lot too, is like, I think I said before, like getting out of your own way. And to me, like I almost conceptualize it as like a child and a parent sort of relationship. And the child at like, you know, you want to ask about my childhood because we all associate the child with creativity and freedom and liberation and like a lack of like top-down control. And so I kind of see, I kind of see this child as something that's trying to get out. And maybe the child is like original, like divinity, like it's original creativity. You know, it's sort of like a pure source. And then as we get older, we get kind of conditioned and like the voices of our parents and people that we respect, like get into our subconscious and tell us that we can't do things, or we develop concepts about what good and bad means, and then we hold ourselves to these different standards that we've created. So I feel like another thing I work on is removing a lot of those blocks where I can, so that, like you're saying, something can move through me, because I don't feel like it's a matter of striving to become something incredible. I feel like it's a matter of recognizing that you're already there, and that there are things that there are things that like block you from seeing the truth of what you really are.
Whoa.
And that's kind of, I feel like that's kind of what you're talking about. You're just like, whoa, like something's moving through me and I can surrender. I don't have to be, like, we think that when we judge and control and like stipulate that our work is going to be better, but usually it just restricts everything, and like that resistance makes work that is fearful and pandering and like seeking approval, and nobody resonates with that necessarily.
I love what you just said, especially with like children being like a natural divinity almost. And then as we grow older, there's like a fog or a haze that that increasingly like covers our vision, and the kind of playfulness of a child is so important, and also the hypnotizing effect of children, right? Because a child can draw something, and hopefully if they're not like in an abusive or neglected position, their parents will be like, wow, and you know, everything is exciting. There's that awe that everything is new and fascinating,
Right.
And then we do lose that, but I think as an artist, you're trying to continually keep that.
Yeah. You're trying to like, that's why I respect artists, because there's been a lot of times in my life where I've felt that restrictive force, and then I've shied away from whatever I'm doing because I'm like, oh, I'm not good enough to do this, so I'm just going to back off. But I think as an artist, you're like, part of being on the path is pushing through that and like actively seeking that child within you. And when you like look at David Bowie, for example, like somebody who's just so liberated and so like totally himself, and just to be around him, I bet would like put you into that mindset. It's like inspiring. It's like, oh, I can, like, he can go on stage and do that. I can like paint a painting, even though I don't feel like I deserve to. It like gives you permission to just open up a little bit, which I think like that's freedom, and that's like a life well lived, rather than a life of like internal oppression, which is, I mean, yeah, I don't want that.
What is like what do you see as the goal for you in your art, like 5-10 years from now? What do you want that to be in your life?
I don't know. I'm not really good at like long-term planning necessarily. I feel like this might be a bad life philosophy, but I feel like if I sort of trust my gut and like trust the child as I move through life, I'll kind of be directed in a good way. Sometimes, I mean, this could be just an excuse for like being disorganized and lazy, but I feel like a lot of the time goal setting for me turns into like, I have to do this. It becomes that like sort of unhealthy parent voice of like, okay, you have to get up early. You should do this. You should do that. And then it's like, well, to what end? Like, I don't know. It seems like to set a goal feels like, it's like, okay, I'll be happy when I reach the goal.
Right.
But I mean, maybe I have an unhealthy relationship with goals. So why don't you guys share your goals? Inspire me.
That's a good question. Do you want to share?
What's your 5-year plan? 10-year plan?
I mean, it doesn't have to be like as strict as like a 5-year plan.
See, this is what happens. I'm like, what are you going to do?
I'm already getting disoriented thinking about it.
I just got a heat flash.
I think for me, like looking ahead 5-10 years, I can set myself these goals of like, myself being in like a filmmaking career. I want to be able to have my own piece of work made by a certain time. I've said to myself years back that, in 5 years, I'd like to have a feature film made. I'd like to have something. To me, I feel I do need a goal to reach, and not that it's going to provide me all of the happiness that I'm looking for, but that it's a stepping stone for me to build on that. Right. And I know that if I don't, and actually during all of this COVID time, I realized that without structure, without like that goal, I can really just lose myself. I can really just like let my time go away thinking that, the child wants to play, you know? And this is not a knock at you. This is just at me, because I'm always like, the child wants to play this video game he's never played.
Right.
The child wants to buy this guitar and play music because he didn't get the chance to do that.
Yeah.
The child wants to X, Y, and Z. So I feel myself, I can get very lost in the wilderness of my own mind, you know?
Yeah.
And so those goals help. I'm like swimming out of the ocean and I can see a bit of a light because I've said, okay, in 5 years, I'm going to do that. Right. I've looked back recently. I've applied to this, it's like a mentorship of cinematography based out of the States. And I was putting together the things that I've shot in the last couple of years, and coming back from film school, which is about 2015, when I came back to Edmonton, I was blown away that I'm like, whoa, I had put myself to a lot of projects, you know? I hadn't put up like a resume, so to speak, of the things I've done. And I was just kind of surprised that I was like, holy crap, like I've done a lot. Some people don't even do any of this in their lives. And, you know, if this is my goal, I've reached some of the things that I didn't even think I would. But now it's about, what does 5 years look like from now? I mean, a lot of that in my mind now is like some financial liberty to be able to do these things. But also just like the will and the drive to get, say a short film done, a feature done. I don't know. Those are just like loose goals, but that's at least what it looks like for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. That sounds like soothing, actually. Like a soothing amount of order in the chaos.
Sure. Yeah.
Emily Walls.
Ooh.
I agree that for myself, it's good to have some sort of goal, or I'm trying to create maybe a practice where you have a set time each day that you're building towards your goal, whatever that is. Because I'm just so inconsistent as a person. I feel I have maybe this is the thing with artists, so like highs and lows and different energy levels. But I almost feel like for myself, a proper goal cannot be created until I like figure out who I am. Right.
I feel like that. I feel like that too, actually.
You know, I'm like, who am I authentically?
Right.
Like who am I truly? Because I feel like I've grown up in an environment that I've constantly shut myself down from who I really am in order to avoid like a lot of shame and embarrassment. And like, especially coming from like an Asian background, there's a lot of expectations. Goals like be a doctor, get married at this time.
Very concrete goal.
Right. So I almost don't like those kind of goals. And I think my goal is to like maybe in 5 years recognize who I truly am, what I truly care about. And as a more superficial goal, it would be cool to photograph like some a big artist that I
Yeah.
really admire,
Right.
or like some really cool musicians, or actors. I really like actors' headshots, actually.
Yeah. I feel like actors are fun to shoot because they're like so expressive.
Actors and musicians.
Yeah.
Some musicians are a bit more challenging, but most of them are very like involved in their like creative image.
Right.
So those are fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I like having that hierarchy of you're like, okay, here's like an abstract goal, which is like figure out who I am, which I feel like I have that goal too. And I also do feel like I'm like, how am I supposed to make a goal in 5 to 10 years? Like, I don't know who I'm going to be in like 2 weeks. Sometimes that's how it feels, right? When you're so up and down. And like, I feel like my interests kind of are scattered as well. So sometimes it feels hard to plan, but I think it is a good idea to have concrete goals too. Like, even just like, yeah, I want to photograph this person, or I want to take these kinds of portraits. Yeah, I think sometimes I think like if you're battling against that like top down kind of order, like parent voice, you can go reactionary the other way too. And you can be like, I don't need any structure. I don't need any, I just will live in chaos and I will live in just pure creativity. And that doesn't work either. You almost need that balance. Like they have to work together, even though I do like to kind of villainize that sort of judgmental voice, but maybe it has a function as well.
I like you both touched on your true selves. Have you had glimpses of, oh, that's actually me in anything, in life, in art, in creating, in love, and whatever? Have you felt that?
You go first. Hitting hard.
I feel like a good question to ask when coming to that
She's going to answer it with a question.
is when do I feel like my happiest or fullest self? When do I feel most invigorated?
Yeah.
Or like connected.
Yeah.
So with someone, I'm trying to think, when have I seen my true self? I think I am, for a long time I thought I wasn't very caring, but I do realize I am quite caring to the point of harming myself. But it also is very nice, like when you can, I remember I was speaking with someone who was feeling suicidal, or their mental health was really low. So I was like having a conversation with them, trying to just listen to why they felt that way. And they were saying how they feel like they didn't know anyone in their life who was a good influence with them. This is a person who has had a background with, you know, the criminal justice system, and, you know, constantly in their lives people have been involved with drugs and their own self-harm, and they don't know how to get out of this cycle, and they felt like there was no place for them in this world. And it's hard because I myself am privileged, like being from middle class, lower middle class background, and not being a monster, you could say. We have to get rid of that too. It's so harmful.
What?
Like, people are so judgmental about appearances and
yes.
all these things. So it's trickier for some people to find a safe home. So I just, you know, I listened and I was like, I feel these things too. And they're like, really?
You do?
And I guess that empathetic Emily, is that me?
Oh, wow. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So you,
Totally.
yeah, I see what you're saying. You like created this kind of label for yourself of like, I'm not empathetic or compassionate. And then you like proved yourself wrong.
And it felt good. And I think, yeah, who am I as my true self? Creative and wanting to connect.
Cool.
Yeah. I resonate with that. I feel like connection is a word for me too. I also, I mean, I don't know. I feel like self, like the idea of yourself is so nebulous. It's like,
So egotistical.
well, it's just like, okay, am I my idea of myself?
You are.
Either way.
I think either way, yeah, you kind of are.
Yeah. But then my idea of myself can change almost like on a whim. So how stable is that?
I guess we could think about it as a way like do you feel like you're living a lie right now, or do you feel like
right? Yeah,
you're kind of going towards your path of yourself,
right? Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like the way that I know if I'm being true to myself is like a body sense and less of a conceptual sense. Like, you know, when you're saying something that's kind of bullshit and you can feel it you can kind of feel it in your body. Like it almost creates this like dissonance in your body where you're just like, oh, I'm not telling the truth right now. And that, I feel like that's very intuitive. It's not necessary. Like for me, at least, it's not like I'm an honest person and I shouldn't be doing this. It's like, no, on a fundamental level in my body, in my cells, they're just like, don't do this. Like, this is not true to you. You're trying to show off. You're trying to make yourself small. This is not being authentic in this moment. So there's definitely that. I don't know if you guys experience that.
I also get that body feeling. My chest gets heavy.
In the chest,
My throat constricts.
Oh, wow.
And people start commenting, are you tired? You look like you're worn
Whoa,
out.
that's actually really interesting because maybe you're like choking off your life force. So they can see it.
Whoa.
What do you think, Gerardo?
That's deep.
No, is it?
Yeah, no, choking off your life force? That's
Well,
super deep.
I mean,
So you're talking about like moments we can feel what we're doing or saying does not align with who we think ourselves are. Is that right?
Yeah, or just like, it could be who you think you are. It could also just be like when I lie, like when I say something that is untrue, whatever your conception of that is, it feels bad. And so I think some people will lie, and I mean, obviously I've done this too. They'll lie and they'll be like, it's okay. Like I can lie because of XYZ, but in your body's like, I don't think so. Something's not right. And you could just like ignore that and then keep living your life. And then you're sort of cramped and you don't know who you are. And you sort of corrupt your sense of what is real because you have not told yourself the truth. So I just feel like, I feel like that's kind of a sense of self that I have is like my physical direct experience. I feel like that's quite stable. Whereas I feel like my thoughts and conceptions can be quite fluid and therefore they don't feel grounded and like consistent to me.
Yeah, I bring up the question because I think like the hunt for self is like the work of an artist. You know, we seek to understand ourselves through all these mediums, through film and photography, in our place in what we're at, in our place in this city, in our place in art itself. I know that looking at me and my experience with it, that's been exactly it. Like ever since I decided to take like cinematography more serious, it was always about looking inward. It was always about like, even if it was working with somebody else to help them realize their script or their vision, it was always about what of me is distilling this idea, you know? Yeah, and I mean, it has always come back to my experiences growing up without a father, growing with my mother and sister, you know, being around more maternal energy as opposed to masculine energy, not for all of my life, but for the majority of it, and what that means to me now, you know, how that forms me now. So, yeah, it's funny because like when I ask that question of like, have you had a moment of feeling yourself and knowing what that is? In my own mind, like, and immediately I'm like, oh yeah, I've had this moment. I've had that moment. Oh, I know who I am. I'm a cinematographer that loves making beautiful things. It can be as simple as that. And then just as you're speaking and as you're talking, it's a lot more complex. It's a lot more multi-layered. It's like, but who am I in the bigger picture? Who am I in the stars and in the cosmos and in God and infinity and in Earth and in Edmonton and in this little community, you know? Who am I when it comes to grounding myself into my own experience? And maybe that does change. Maybe that's amorphous and grows as we grow, but I feel like it's the work of the artist to do that, to find what we are ourselves. Maybe we can help others do the same, but
I think the artist is selfish. Or what is your opinion on the word selfish?
I also just got triggered by that, actually.
Let's go.
I need that. I have struggled with feeling like art is a selfish endeavor and that I should quit doing art because it's masturbatory.
Okay.
And like it's like navel gazing. Have you heard that term before? It's like it's just like so it's like you're so focused on yourself that you just become like egotistical. And yeah, I do worry about that. I think partially because I feel like I should be helping people in a more direct way. And I feel like to be an artist is to be selfish. But I'm not advocating for this opinion. I'm not saying that you should feel like that.
Sure.
I just feel like I struggle with that. Sometimes I think it's because I enjoy it so much. I'm like, do I deserve to enjoy this much when there's like people who are dying? Like,
whoa.
I'm in my like cushy, I mean, it's not that nice, but my cushy apartment, and
nice.
like, and like making stuff and just like blissed out and happy and like in that flow state, forgetting myself. And then it's like, whoa, fucking George Floyd got murdered. And then, you know what I mean? It's just like, who am I to be enjoying my life when there's people who like don't even have something to eat?
Right.
Or people who struggle with emotional issues. And so, yeah, I definitely struggle with that feeling. But yeah.
It's hard to do everything. It's not easy to do everything, right? And I think the role of the artist, which I want to aspire to, is to inspire others, as you are inspiring me now through your conversation. And I love, like, one musician I love, Sev DeLisa. At the end of one of her songs, there is a monologue, and it's like, what the term selfish has such a negative connotation, but I think it means like it's to be true to yourself, or it's to care for yourself. And yeah, it's a fine balance though, for sure.
Yeah, in your own work, do you feel like you choose things and projects because you want to be more altruistic with it? Like, do you feel a sense of, I got to take these photos for these people because I've been spending so much time by myself?
That's a good question. I feel like design is the way that I sort of bridge the gap between feeling like art is selfish and wanting to help people, because I feel like helping people means being useful in a direct way. And if people are hiring me to do a job for them, then it probably means that I'm doing something useful for them. So I do kind of like negotiate with myself that way. Yeah, I'm in school for psychology, so I think at some point I might want to like merge art and therapy together. Because I don't know who my like 50-year-old self is going to be. I don't know what she's going to want. So it might be nice to have a little extra option for a direction.
That's selfish. I'm just
So cool.
I
love that you're in school for psychology.
It's I mean, it's like a long term. If I get my degree in like 10 years, that's fine.
What made you go back to school?
Honestly, ironically, based on our conversation that we just had, structure. I really wanted some structure, because as a freelancer, it can get really dicey when you're just like, I'm going to wake up at 11 and then I'm going to like play my guitar and then I'm going to like do one logo, and then, you know, it's just like it can get, or you stay up till 4 a.m. trying to finish a project that you had a deadline for. So I'm not very good at giving myself that structure. So I thought, like I had some extra free time because my schedule was pretty open, and I've always been really interested in psychology and I love school. So yeah, it just seemed like a good fit for me. And it's also fun to like be around students, because they're so like hopeful about the future.
Yeah.
They're really striving for something.
Where are you studying?
At U of A.
U of A.
Yeah. Well, I was.
And has COVID kind of.
Yeah. Because now everything's online. And I'm like, I don't need to spend more time in front of my computer. Like I want to go half of the reason I want to go is to make connections and to meet people.
Right. So
it doesn't really do it for me, but I'm in no rush to get it done. So I'll maybe take a year off or something.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. There's like sweat dripping down my back right now.
That's beautiful.
I like even your posture is amazing. I just have to note that, and
Really?
I hope it isn't too uncomfortable sitting on the bed.
Oh no, I have to.
You can prop a pillow behind you, maybe, if that makes things.
Do you think that's
easier.
why I'm sweating? Because I'm like exerting myself to sit
Just
straight.
holding
You know what
yourself
I
upright.
think you need? Some sugar.
Yeah,
Ooh.
I have wine.
You have wine?
That's.
Would you like
that's
anything
okay.
else? When you think sugar, what do you crave?
What I would, you know what I
Right.
want right now is like a cold peach.
That's nice. That is nice.
Although maybe there's peach. I think we
Oh,
might have
there
something
is.
that's peach flavored.
There is
Really?
something that's peach flavored.
Really? Is it
And
I'd
like,
like to offer you.
is it a liquid?
No.
Is it candy?
No.
Oh.
I will show you what it is.
Okay. Wow, I'm surprised that.
So we have a little gift for you.
Yay!
Yum.
Yum.
Donuts.
Wow.
Sponsored by Donut Party.
Really?
Yes.
Are we actually?
We're not, but hopefully so.
Hopefully
Shout
soon.
out to Donut Party.
Shout out
Yes.
to Donut Party.
This is a free promo for you. Don't say we never did nothing for you, Donut Party.
And
Yeah, one of them is peach, right?
one of them is a fuzzy peach twist.
Boom.
And
there
there's
you go.
also raspberry Bismarck,
Yum.
fuzzy peach twist, birthday cookie,
Ooh,
crumble,
birthday cookie. I love birthday cake
classic
flavor.
vanilla dip, and can you say, Gerardo, say this one because it's Spanish.
Horchata.
Oh, wow.
The dirty horchata.
What does that mean?
Dirty horchata. What do you think that means?
Bad.
No. Horchata is a seed-based drink, so
How would
dirty
I ever guess
horchata
that?
is
Oh, I
just-
think it's a seed-based drink.
And I really should have thought of bringing knives and plates. Or
Yeah.
maybe we'll eat this after.
We could
I
eat-
don't know.
You know
Let's-
what? I think she should just eat it.
No.
You should
Yeah.
just-
No,
go for it.
I
You
don't want
wanna
to.
eat it?
It's going to make my throat all sticky and weird.
Oh, that would be cool.
We'll eat this after with
Okay.
pistachio ice cream.
We'll do
Me
a
Italian
slow-mo.
Okay.
Let's do a slow-mo montage of us
Of
eating these.
At the end.
Yes.
Okay.
I'd be like chomping right into the camera. And the mouth noises. That's the
I
ASMR.
meant to do this at the intro,
Nice.
but
That's okay. I like it.
Let's start
I like,
over.
I like
Let's
how you just pulled it out. You sure you don't want one?
Yeah, I'm
I think,
good.
I think everyone wants to watch you eat one.
Yeah, all of our listeners and viewers want to watch that. That's on the Patreon. That's paid for content.
Very good. See,
Yeah.
I like
but it'll
where you're
be
headed.
here free tonight
Yeah.
at the end of the session if you subscribe.
Yeah. You can come over.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question to Emily?
Of course.
Emily, I would like to know more about your childhood. And because I know a little bit about it, and I know that, you mentioned it a little bit, like what the process is for you of like sort of wrenching yourself out of some of the, maybe like, I don't know, conditioning, as well as like what the positive aspects were for you growing up. Like what kind of reinforcement did you get? What kind of difficulties are you still dealing with? If I know that's very personal, but I feel like that would really help me personally.
That will be, you have to pay for that.
Okay.
And also I brought out the donuts because I heard that you danced when
Oh my
you
God.
received a donut one time.
Okay,
at a
why does
party.
everybody fucking know about
Like
that?
you
Oh,
danced
wow.
and everyone was looking at you and you were this radiant child dancing.
Wow.
With a
Um,
donut.
Yeah.
When you
What?
received a donut from Donut Party.
Yeah.
So they are quite beautiful. And
We
I
actually have
understand
music
that.
queued up for you to dance to.
Oh, really?
That's not
Wow.
danceable music at all.
This is the music I danced to in the Donut Party warehouse.
So just imagine her with a donut dancing. She has blonde hair.
Yeah. The donut was in my mouth.
She had a Sailor Moon suit on
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. Oh my god.
We need like a close-up photo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of the detail.
I don't even know which one that is. That's insane.
I feel like it's the peach twist. because
You think
it's
that's a peach twist?
Sounds like the move Kelsey was doing, and she didn't want to.
What is your favorite color,
Show
by
us.
the way?
So you don't want to answer my question?
Oh.
Don't think I've forgotten. You don't have to answer it because I know it's
And-
super personal.
I will give a broad answer.
Oh, I would enjoy that.
Yeah.
But yes, I grew up as an only child, and that makes you have a lot of imaginary friends and
Yeah.
things like that. I was sheltered. I wasn't allowed to play with the neighborhood kids, really. So I feel like I spent a lot of time indoors. My dad had art supplies, which was nice. And yeah, it was interesting. I wish I had a little bit more freedom. Like when you said that you were allowed to go to a creek and come back at dusk. That sounds like such an adventure that I didn't have, but I'm alive, so there's that to be thankful for. And yeah, I think I need structure. It's interesting. Why do so many people need structure? Like, I feel like the majority of people need structure, and I wonder why that is so. some people can make their own structure, but like in my upbringing, I feel it was very unstructured. I didn't have a bedtime. Like I would go to bed at 4 a.m.
Whoa.
Even as a kid, I'd wake up hardly in time for school. So often late. Just such a thug, even in elementary. But yeah, I have no sort of schedule in that regard. I didn't do homework after school. I just did it the night before, which follows me to this day. I have terrible procrastinations.
Me
but
too.
a lot of people say that, but I really think mine is pretty horrific. Like, I took a design course at the U of A. I took an art class, and I literally did my portfolio the 2 days before it was due, which I think is pretty bad, or even the night before it was due.
Right.
Because you said you were working on it for weeks, and I just did it all in like 72 hours.
Right. And you attribute that to not having much structure.
I don't know if that is if there is a connection, or if my mind is just making the connection so I don't feel guilty. And yeah, I do. It's interesting to think about, but I think, yeah, if you're by yourself as a kid, there's not much to do. I'm curious about yourself. Like you mentioned, you didn't give too much information on your parents or your siblings even, because you said you were the eldest.
Right.
Of how many?
Yes.
Wasn't mentioned. So I am curious. I have a sister who is 13 years younger than me.
Right.
So I'm not an only child, but I kind of am in my development.
That's kind of an interesting
And people
gap.
always have a stereotype that only children are selfish or they don't care. So
And you're disproving that.
I hope so.
You are.
I care.
And it's cool that you have a sister who's so much younger than you, because you get to see, like, you've gotten to see like that childlike kind of action in process.
Her art is amazing. She's an amazing artist, and I hope she never loses that, because it's incredible. And she'll say, like, I'll be like, whoa, where did you get that design, or that, how do you draw this person like that? And she would say, I looked in your old sketchbooks and I was inspired.
Oh, wow.
That makes me feel really good.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So she looks up to you.
Well, sometimes.
Yeah. Maybe
Then-
as she gets older,
Then
not
she
as
will
much.
voice my mom's voice, and she'll be like, well, why aren't you a doctor yet?
That's really telling. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. I don't mean to put you on the spot. I'm very interested in, and actually this was in your list of questions that you sent me, of like, how did your upbringing shape like who you are as a person now? And yeah, I always think about that in terms of like positive judgment and negative judgment, because yeah, there's a lot of people in my life growing up who were like, don't be selfish, don't be an artist, because you're going to disappoint your parents and they've worked so hard for you. And on the other hand, there was like, sometimes my parents would give me a lot of positive judgment for being an artist, like for being so creative. And then I'm like, holy shit, I really have to live up to that. So it was almost as, like, it's not debilitating, but it's almost as influential as the criticism to have someone be like, you're really good at this. Like, I hope you can keep it up.
Right. Wow.
Forever.
How many siblings do you have?
I have one sibling. She's 4 years younger than me. She's a girl.
Does she do anything artistic or creative?
Not really. She's more of a grounded kind of, like, I would say like earthy person. Like, she's very social. I would say that that's probably her art form, is like social connections and like being kind to people. She's always like, she's been able to like build a community wherever she goes. She's the kid who, like, when she was like 6 or 7, she would play with a friend all day, and then as soon as the friend would leave, she'd be like, I'm bored. Like, she's just such an extrovert growing up. So yeah, her and I were quite different in that way, but yeah.
Is your what about your mom and dad? Are either of them extroverts, introverts?
My dad's very extroverted and my mom is quite introverted. So my parents run a business together, and my mom does the accounting and like the payroll, and my dad works on like operations and kind of like advertising stuff. So my dad's a little more creative and like managerial, and then my mom was very, very, very organized and analytical. And like one time I was describing to my mom like how much I love music and just like the beauty of making music and how I get lost in it, and she's like, she kind of got a little teary, and she's like, that's how I feel about accounting.
Whoa.
She's like, that's how I feel about numbers. She's like, numbers just like make sense to me and they just speak to me.
Yeah.
She like, that's her art form. That's what she likes to work with.
Right.
But I always thought of her as like analytical and like not creative. But that's not, I mean, it's not true. She just has such a different slant than I have.
Yeah, it's so true. I have a friend who's exactly like that. And he was helping me break down, I can't remember what, but he pulled up a spreadsheet, put the numbers in. And he's like, this is the figure and this is the figure in like minutes. And it blew my mind because this would have took me weeks to mull over and think about and stress about.
Yeah.
And it was just like, boom, like right there.
Yeah.
It's laid out. What's your choice? And I was like, cool. But you could see his beautiful mind, like
Right.
shift those numbers together. And then you could do like calculations and extrapolations beyond that. And you're right. Like it's such an art form, but it's not what we always think about as art, right? Like numbers and this more like office style of approach to it. But I mean, going to like a conversation about art in the bigger sense, which I had like a little bit of a question about. But first I wanted to ask just like about art. Like I have a very big repulsion towards like the term art, kind of like you do artist, because like to me, a museum filled with art. I was in New York and I was like really sick one day and I had a meeting and it was near this museum. And I was like, if I don't go to this, I'm never going to go to it again. So I go into this museum. I'm sick as a dog and I'm walking around. I'm hating everything. Like, what the hell's going on? These are like beautiful
Which
Renaissance
museum?
It's the one in Central Park. I don't know if it's the Met. I don't even remember.
We hate the Met on this podcast.
No.
I actually love the
Not
Met.
at all. So yeah, like
some parts of it.
Okay.
Nothing-
Some parts are
We're split on the Met.
no.
and
My own
colonial.
again, like
Ooh.
my own perception of it was because I was sick. You know, I just didn't want to be there. But I was like, I have to
That'll do it.
I have to enjoy this while I'm here.
I love
anyways.
forcing myself to have fun.
Yeah. But as I was going in, you know, there's this like almost like a throng of homeless people just outside of it. They're asking for money and, you know, doing their thing. And then I go into it, I was like, why are there like rooms and cathedrals built for art? And these people are like asking for money outside of it, you know? And to me, that really delineated the difference in what I feel is art. And as you're saying, you know, your mother makes her living through that art form of numbers and mathematics in this way that we can't conceive maybe, but it's an art form nonetheless. And so to me, like that should be also in a museum just as much as any painting or song or whatever. But like my question was this: do you feel like art in our modern age, 2020, even here in Edmonton, Alberta, has changed from what it was in those times of like Renaissance artisans creating commissions and artwork for all this? Like what is art now to us, to you?
Can I defer the historical part to Emily?
Sure.
Because I feel like she knows more about art history than I do.
I mean, it doesn't even have to be that. It could just be like
What is your opinion
Yeah,
of art right now?
Okay.
What does it mean to you?
Man, it's such a broad question. I feel like the word, like just the term art is, like I also struggle with it because, I mean, actually I Googled the definition of art today in preparation for this.
Brilliant.
And that
Good.
did not help me at all. It did not help me. There's so many different answers. Basically, like the main definition of art is like expressions of beauty, usually in like a painting or like a song or something. It was very, very limited. And to me, art is expression. It's an expressive. It's any way that you can express like your perspective and your internal experiences, or your past experiences. So I do feel like there's kind of like an autobiographical nature to art, but not always. Because I consider conversation to be art. Like I've had people who are so articulate and so just like well versed and they can think on their feet and they're just like, I'm not a creative person. And I'm like, you just crafted an entire world for me.
Right.
You just said words that transported me in my mind to a new location and like use description to give me an experience. And then you say that you're not creative and that you're not an artist. So I think the art is pretty broad. I don't know how the reason I wanted to put the historical question on you, Emily, is because I don't know how it's changed. I don't know the evolution because I feel like my perspective is so just limited. Like I know how art has changed for me, but I don't really have my finger on the pulse of how the culture has changed, even in Edmonton.
Okay.
Because it's so hard to know.
It is hard. I honestly don't know too much about it either, especially in Edmonton. I do think that the terminology of art has become more accepted as like expression, because you have like these classical paintings, right, during the Renaissance where they had certain rules that you had to adhere to.
Right.
And then when there was like, I don't know, I'm not too familiar. Don't quote me on this. Impressionists, post-impressionists, like modernists, abstract expressionists, like going against any sort of art movement that went against what was defined as art,
right,
but was pure expression.
Right. Gotcha.
And I even think like art is that it is expression, and it doesn't have to be good, whatever good means. It can just be expression. And a lot of people, I think, have the conception that art has to be good. It has to be something worthy of hanging on a wall or being in a museum. But really, the purity of it, I think, is just expression. And then from there, society decides, like, what is art that we appreciate.
Okay.
It doesn't make sense.
That totally makes sense. I love, honestly, even just, like, as a general broad stroke of, like, there was more structure in the past. There were like rules that you had to follow. It's like you had to do this type of painting. And then people were like, fuck that. I don't want to do that. But I still want to make art. Like I still want to express myself. And then that kind of is, like you just summed that up so well. Like that just kind of is art history. Just like a set of sort of like societal standards and then a reaction against that. And then maybe a reaction against that reaction over and over again. Would you agree with that?
I agree.
So like kind of bringing it to like our current context, are memes art?
Whoa. I would say.
I say yes.
I vote yeah.
I feel the same, yeah.
I laugh so hard at memes.
Exactly. It's such a compact form of information.
Yeah.
You get so much.
So smart.
A reference, a tag, whatever it is. It's communicating something so quick, almost quicker than like just reading or seeing a photo.
Definitely.
Which obviously it's like combining both.
Right. But still, there's so much information packed in a meme. And it's cool because it's like a collaborative, it's almost like public art in the sense of like collaborative, because like how many times has someone made a meme and then somebody else like made a meme of that meme.
Right.
Like Elon Musk smoking the joint. Like he participated in that by smoking the joint and then somebody screenshotted it and then somebody else like spread it around the internet. It's like, it's like a collaboration between all these different people on the internet, which is really interesting.
A collaboration between minds.
Yeah. Beautiful minds.
So will we see memes in museums one day?
Whoa, probably. Historic, like.
That's so weird.
It brings up so many questions though, because as an artist too, I don't know, it's so hard like with social media because there's like the internet famous kind of thing where someone doesn't necessarily have to put hours of practice to create something and then they can become famous. But then is that luck or is there some sort of hidden skill in that? I don't know. And then people who are spending like years to perfect something and to spend hours painting a really detailed painting and then someone maybe paints some woman's bum and then has them sit on that, which is still considered art, but there's definitely different definitions and perspectives of it. It's hard to like take a stance. I'm so unopinionated. Does anyone have an opinion on that, like the time that should be required to be considered an artist or something to be considered art?
Yeah, that's a good one. It's like there's like a time, there's an actual like amount of time they've said to like you need to spend
10,000 hours.
Is it 10,000 hours?
I don't know. It seems
around there.
I feel like who's the guy that did the thrift store song?
Macklemore?
Yeah, he did a song about 10,000 hours.
Oh,
and it was very inspirational.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Sorry, that was a stupid thing to interject with.
No,
Continue.
not at all. Not at all. Yeah, like to that point, like, do we need to now spend 10,000 hours, or can we just copy someone's meme and that'll be hung on a wall one day?
Yeah, I mean, I guess
What is art in
depends.
I think that can draw back to the conversation on maybe what your worth is and charging, because
Interesting.
you know, kind of figuring out your rate. Did you? I'm curious how you came to that. I know a lot of people have questions about that, which, you know, you don't have to share fully because you probably did a lot of research on that.
Oh yeah, I did research today, literally on this topic.
To that decision. Yes. But I think there's a fine balance of being like, okay, I spend this much time studying, this much time shooting, this is what I'm worth. Can you break that down?
Nice.
Yeah, I can. I can break that down. Okay, so recently I kind of changed my pricing because something that I've always done is I've always done this, but I always felt like it was a bad idea, and I tried to like fight against it a little bit. I looked at the person that I was quoting for, and I asked myself, like, what are they getting out of this? And that is going to reflect how much I'm going to charge. But then I started to feel bad because I'm like, well, why should this like company be paying more for the same thing than like a musician? And I actually asked you about this once too, about like shooting for musicians and other artists. But it does matter because like if I take a photo for like Nike and they're going to use it in a huge campaign, I'm not going to charge the same for that photo as I'm going to charge, like if you're like, hey, I need a new headshot, I'm not going to charge the same, because what kind of value are you going to get out of that headshot versus what kind of value are they going to get out of the headshot or the photo? So I try to, I mean, this can get very complicated as well, depending on if you're like a commercial photographer versus just an artist. Like, I feel like it's easier to price as an artist because you have like your artist fee and you're doing something that usually I think doesn't result in direct profit for the client. Like it can.
Can you break down the artist fee?
I mean, I don't know. I'm not very good with artist fees because I still, even as an artist, I structure my pricing as like a commercial photographer. So like, but at the same time, like, honestly, if someone comes to me and they're like, hey, I just need like a photo of myself, I'm a musician, I have $200, I'm going to be like, sure. Like, I'm going to just like follow my heart and be like, you know what? I'll do that for you.
Right.
But my time still has to be covered. I mean, it's like, I price my work based on like, am I going to really love this project? That does factor in for me. Is it going to be difficult for me to complete it? Is it a good portfolio piece? Like, these are things I consider.
Well, what's the percentage of things you've done that you feel you love?
Yes.
And things that you've just done for the check?
Oh, I would say like, I'd say like maybe 30% things I hated, hated.
Yeah.
And then the rest I really liked.
70 love. That's pretty good.
It's a good percentage.
I actually didn't even want to say 70 because I was like, what if that's not? I was like 70 plus 30.
Yeah.
But it's gotten a lot better. And what I do now is I charge more if I feel like, actually no. You know what I do now is I try to make it something that I enjoy. Because in the past, the stuff that I've done where I hated it, it was because I let the client like walk all over me and take control in a way that was bad for me and bad for them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that triggered Emily.
Yeah.
When a client comes to you and is like, I love your vision, I need your creative expertise, and then they end up just telling you everything they want exactly, and
I could talk about this for so long.
Want to talk for hours, or just not hours, but for an extended period of time of what they want.
Yeah.
So
you've got to set those expectations for them.
To set the expectations.
Do you have any horror stories?
Oh my God.
You don't have to say names, but horror stories that our listeners and viewers can.
Here's a horror story for you. I designed a logo for a lovely woman. She was a wonderful person. She was very opinionated, and she was a design expert in her own mind. And she wanted a logo. And I gave her, I'll tell you my mistakes in this situation because I take responsibility for the fact that she got out of hand. She wanted a logo, and I asked her some questions about her business, and I gave her some options, and she came back with many, many, many revisions, including I would like Comic Sans for the typeface or something similar.
Nice.
Something fun.
I'm horrified.
You'd be surprised. How many people love Comic Sans? She was like,
I do.
Yeah, you do. This is when this is a story about how I designed Gerardo's logo. And yeah, she just, there was like so many things where she's like, well, I actually like the color purple, so I would like the logo to be purple, or like the type is not big enough, so I'd like it to be bigger. So essentially she started just like kind of nitpicking everything, which I think happens pretty quickly. It can happen pretty quickly where somebody's like designing over your shoulder essentially. And instead of being like, I strongly advise against this and here's why, I just went along with it because I didn't want to rock the boat. And in my head I was like, well, she's paying me and I want to make her happy. The purpose of a logo is not to make the owner of the logo happy, by the way. It's to communicate a message. And that's my job to make sure she doesn't get in her own way with that. But in the very end of this process, she was like, you know what? I actually found this like clip art picture of a flower. And I'd like that to be my logo. And I was like, sure, no problem. No problem.
Yeah, just accept it.
It's the worst thing I've ever made. Ooh. It's so bad. And the sad thing is that she got in touch with me actually like a few weeks ago, and she's like, hey, like I need to like put my logo on like shirts and trucks, and like her business has expanded like crazy.
Whoa.
And she's like, but my logo has like 16 colors in it. So
oh jeez.
So now that I know more, I was like, let me help you.
Right.
I'm gonna be a bit of an asshole to you, and I'm gonna like pull the expert card on you, and I'm not gonna let you do things that are bad for you, because my own passivity is what got in the way previously.
Right.
You know, I tried to trick myself and be like, oh, I'm just like a caring, compassionate person and I don't want to rock the boat. But actually I was a coward and I didn't want to stand up to her.
Wow.
So now I'm like, listen, this is what you need. And I also realized that if you're not willing to walk away, then you don't have any sort of sway in the interaction.
Wow.
If you're not going to be like, you know what, this is my suggestion, and if you don't want to do it, then I'm not going to be a part of it. Like, I'm not going to design you or photograph you or draw you something that I don't like.
Wow.
So I think that is going to help me in the future of like not hating the work that I do.
I think it also helps you on your journey of being your true self.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
That's true.
That's a very good point.
That's a really good point. I got to chill when you said that, actually. Because it feels aligned.
Your chakras
are my chakras are on fire right now.
Yes.
Now to follow that,
yes.
Like, what does the ideal interaction with a client look like to you?
It looks like, I mean, this is kind of how I structure things now. And I'm what I'm talking about specifically is like design and branding, but I think it could apply to photography as well when you're working for somebody. My ideal is like, let's spend 50% of the time on discovery and like, what do you need? Who are you? It's like very psychological, which I really like. Who's your audience? What do you want to communicate? If it's something a little more artistic, like you're taking a portrait of somebody, it's like you can even just go super abstract with it and be like, what do you want people to feel when they look at this photo in the end? And then so you're taking like these very broad ideas, and then I'm the one that gets to decide, okay, so you wanted people to feel safe when they looked at this. As the designer or as the visual person, I'm going to decide what elements communicate safety.
Okay.
As opposed to them being like, I want people to feel safe, but I also love lime green. And I would like that to be in there. It's like, well, I don't know that that's going to work. But so it's more like, and also I think like educating them is really important. Of like, hey, here's why lime green doesn't make me feel safe. It actually makes me feel invigorated. So
what's a safe color to you?
Oh, blue.
Ooh.
I would say blue. Yeah.
Interesting.
I think a lot of companies use blue because it like kind of inspires trust. It's like it's very grounding. Yeah, I would say blue, but not like a bright blue. Maybe like a soft blue.
Like the one behind you.
Yeah, I feel so safe with that
good.
color. Maybe pink too. Yeah.
Beautiful.
But also you can ask people. You could be like, okay, I made your logo blue because you wanted to inspire safety. I'm going to show it to 20 people and ask them what it makes them feel. And now we have like tangible evidence. Or we can make it lime green and I can show 20 people and then I can prove to you that you're wrong. Which is a little extra effort, but if you want to make something that you like, then I think it's worth it.
I want to take a little sidestep here.
Okay.
I love that you're sharing so much about your own craft, your own approach to this, how much you're charging, you know, that's incredible for someone like starting out and thinking about this or whatever, you know, like an artist in general. That's invaluable. What about the technical side of things? Have you invested a lot in tech, whether it's tablets or computers, and how much of that do you think was worth the investment?
I'm not really a techie person. I feel like it's a little bit overwhelming. I like things to be really simple. I mean, sometimes I think you can get caught up in the tech and use it as like an excuse or like a distraction from making things. Like, I think, but I do think that you need things that work for you. So yeah, I think it's kind of trial and error, but at the same time, it's also like I used Nikon while I was in school. So now I still use Nikon, and I'm sure it's fine for me. I do tend to push my equipment to like its last like dying breath before I get something new, which might be a mistake. But yeah, I mean, I don't really think about the technical too much. I see it as a tool and as a vehicle for expression. So it doesn't necessarily interest me at like in its own right. I don't know if I'm answering this question very well.
No, I think so.
Or you can talk maybe about your current setup for when you're taking photographs or your editing process. Because right now as we're speaking, I feel like I envision you as a photographer, but I'm like, dang, Kelsey's actually also a designer as a big deal. You have a lot of... so maybe you can talk about your setup in regards to photography. And since tech doesn't interest you, what interests you in like when you're photographing someone? Because some people really get off on the tech.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know. I think I've just like,
as we can see all around us.
Yeah. Well, it's like it's doing its job, which I think is important. But you probably, I mean, maybe you experience this working at VizTech too. Like some people will come in, like I've had mostly male photographers for some reason. I'm not sure what the correlation is there. They come in, or they come to me. I don't know where they come in, but they come to me and they're just like, what? They come in. I feel like they're invading my space. That's why.
Yeah.
And they're like, they see that I'm using I use Einstein lights, which is it's like a very cheap light. Actually, you know what it is.
Yeah, sure.
And they're like, why do you use that? Like, that's not a good light. That's not, you know what I mean? They're just like, that's not what you need. That's not what professionals use. Right. Or they're like, you need a full, like when I had a
crop lens.
Yeah, like you need a full frame. And it's like, well, it depends on what I need it for. If it's doing what I need it to do, then that's fine. If it's limiting me, then that's a problem. But I just feel like there's almost this like egotistical kind of like, I'm a better artist than you because I spent $5,000 on my lights. And I just feel like and I do believe that some people get to the level where they're like, I can tell the difference between a pro photo and an Einstein, and I need that extra quality. I personally am not there because I don't know. It doesn't interest me, or it doesn't, I don't know what it is.
Right.
But it's not like I hate gear. I just feel like it's a tool and it works for me. I don't want to get caught up in it. And I like my setup when I'm photographing to be very minimal as well, because I really just like to connect with the person that I'm shooting, and the less like stuff that's in the way, the better. And also the less that my mind is on technical stuff and the more it can be on like being present with the subject. Yeah. I think that's important to me. And I've thought about like getting an assistant for shoots like that too, but it's interesting. I even find like having a third person in the room, especially for like an intimate portrait, really impacts the energy of it. Right. So I guess I'm very like precious with that dynamic, and anything that gets in the way of that, I'll just cut it. Wow. Even if it's a light or
a person, you'll just be like, get out of here.
Yeah.
Just pull the like diva photographer move, like, you get out. You're messing with the vibe. So
that's really nice. There's something very simple and honest in that approach, because it's easy. And to be honest with you, a lot of the camera tech industry is about that pride, is about upgrading every year and every half year, because this is the newest thing. And it's unfortunate. It impedes a lot of people, because a lot of people can, like, I always told people when they would come into the camera store, they would ask about specs and all this stuff. And I'm like, I would say outright to them, like, if you can't make something solid with what you have, you're not going to make anything better with like $1,000 investment, you know? And I think there's something to be said about a limitation you set on yourself and what creates of that.
Yeah.
Right.
I love that. I love that idea so much, especially with lighting, because I hate the finickiness of lighting. I hate I just don't want to think about it. It's too mathematical for me. And like in school, we were really drilled about like ratios and like different modifiers. So I can do it. I can do something complicated if I have to, but I'd rather not. Like my setup that I like right now is just like 1 or 2 bare bulb flashes, and it's like hard lighting. Everything's in focus. But it's like, I don't have to worry about it then, and I can focus on the composition and the expression. I just want to not have to worry about it, basically.
Nice.
Do you have a favorite go-to lens for portraits?
Oh, okay. I really like my 28 right now, the wide lens, because what I'm really into right now is full body shots. I used to be very much into tight portraits with the 85.
And they always tell you too, interestingly enough, like, don't shoot with anything lower than 50.
Right.
So it's interesting that you say 28.
Why do they say that? What's the reason for that?
They say the face gets just like distorted, which I guess could happen maybe if you have a certain facial feature, or your nose will look a certain way.
Right.
But I don't think the distortion is too crazy. I actually recently shooted, I think, wide on a 20 something and turned out fine, turned out really cool.
Oh yeah.
But I always see like on YouTube tutorials, like portrait tutorials, it's like never shoot 50 mm or a millimeter or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you want to do. If I was going to do a super tight portrait, I might not use a 28 or a 24 or wider, depending on what I want. But maybe I want it to look like really janky and crazy and like distorted, who knows. And I've been doing a lot of environmental portraits, so I want the wide lens so that I can get a lot, and so I can get the full body, because that's just what I'm into right now. So, and then I feel like the limitations really create a style, which is cool, because I always used to like obsess over style, like what's my style, like it's so important. But then to just put those limitations on yourself, it's like you automatically have a style because you're working within these restraints. So that's a kind of a plus. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're moving on to the next subject, but I have one more question
Okay.
about portraits.
Oh, I wasn't. Yeah, go ahead.
You said that you don't like to think too much about the tech side because you want to connect with your subject. Do you have guiding questions that you sometimes use?
Ooh, yes. Yeah.
How do you make someone...
Yeah. Every photo shoot is a nude photo shoot. That's how you get them vulnerable.
Like, I'll take off my clothes too. You take off your clothes.
Right, exactly. Yeah, we'll both be naked. That'll make you feel much safer.
Jeez.
I guess I don't have like a list of guiding questions in my mind, but my goal often is, I find when you put a camera in someone's face, you are kind of given this like special pass to be vulnerable with them and have them be vulnerable with you. Because I don't know if you've experienced this, but a lot of the time when you're taking a portrait, the first thing that comes out is people's insecurities. They're willing to voice that. They're like, I don't like the way that I look. I think this part of my body is weird. I think I look old. So it's like I find it to be a very sacred role as a photographer, because you are dealing with somebody's sense of themselves, especially in a negative way a lot of the time. And that's very delicate and very vulnerable. Wow. It's true. And it's like, I really respect that connection. And I feel like when I get into that space, my job is to make them feel safe and accepted, and to like show them how I see them. Because a lot of the time I'm looking for beauty in the person. I'm looking for like the best side of them. And I'm looking for like their spirit and their, like the core of them, like that really lovable part of them, and trying to bring it out. And so I'm trying to like look at them with the eyes of love, really. And so I understand.
Wait, beautiful.
Is that our podcast name?
The eyes of love.
Wow. Oh my God.
Wow. That's actually relevant.
Wow. Okay, we'll think about it.
Okay,
yeah,
we'll consider it.
Sorry.
But yeah, so I feel like it's less about like guiding questions and more about like respecting that connection with them and staying present with them. And I know that that's not like a specific thing, but it's very intuitive and sort of like improvisational in the moment. And I'm sure that you felt that sort of connection.
Yeah, like I think I have a headshot photographer who trained me, and he has guiding questions. But at the end of the day, it's like you just go with the flow of the conversation, and then those are kind of a backup thing you can have if you're stuck, or you know, just there are some questions that you can go back to, like when was what was the last thing that made you laugh, or when do you feel like comfortable, like do you have any hobbies, or you know, things you do for fun. So just really cheesy questions like that, or if they have their photos taken recently, if they like, so because some people like actually taking their photos, so some people like, I like the selfie angle, so then I'll get them to sit down, and then we do a kind of different angle to try to emulate that. It's not my favorite, but it's an option. And then also just, I think, getting them like envisioning, like I think through conversation, almost distracting them so that they feel like they're not getting their photo taken.
Totally. I feel like distracting is a big thing.
And for myself, I think compliments work.
Like when someone compliments you.
You get like, you kind of like flustered at the start. You're like, oh no. But I feel like if you say it enough, like, and if you get that spark, like you get one good one where they're like, oh, you're like gorgeous. And then most of the time they warm up. Not all the time, but I have found that usually it's nice to have some positive reinforcement. At least because I've been on the other side of the camera modeling. So it's nice when you get like a or like a yes, that's good. That direction is good, versus silence, which, you know, everyone's approach is different, but almost silence can be very intimidating.
I'm very guilty of that, because I'll like when it's going really well, I'll be really into it and I won't be saying anything, and then I'll like notice like a flash of sort of worry, and I'll be like, oh, is everything okay? And they're like, am I doing okay?
I'm
like, yes. Something I say a lot actually is, you're perfect. I'll say that, but I'll mean it. I won't be like, you're perfect as in like, oh, you're perfect. It's like, because a lot of the time people will like express their insecurities to you, and then literally it's stuff that I didn't even notice, and it's like, no, like just let this sink in. You're perfect. Okay. You're perfect. I also, something that I do is I'll tell them, okay, close your eyes and just think of something like you're saying that makes you happy. And I say, forget what your face is doing. Don't control your face at all. Just like go to this place in your mind, and then I'll just photograph you like that.
I almost started crying right there.
Really?
I almost started crying.
Oh, Gerardo's the first one.
You're a therapist. You're an actual therapist.
It's okay. It's okay.
I almost cried before, but I choked it down.
Why?
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Beautiful.
No, that's great.
Why did that move you, Gerardo? What resonated with you?
I mean, it just like resonated with like the work that I like to do. You know, it's like, although it's not, well, I guess, you know, when you're filming someone, it's a moving image, but it is like a portrait of a person as well. So very similarly, they're expressing these things about like, oh, I hate my double chin. I hate when this happens. And you have to kind of go through a similar process of getting them to be comfortable and trust you. And the moments that like really resonate with me and my experience behind a camera is when you can be that person to say, no, looking like this makes you look brilliant, trust me. And they're just like, whoa, and something opens up and they just see a different perspective. So why like it just hit me is like, I guess sometimes I just want someone to say that about me, you know, like in life. You know, like just as I am.
You are perfect.
You're perfect, Gerardo.
Well, thank you.
It's true though. It's like, I feel like we all want that. We're all kind of searching for that. And I
just thought of a recent headshot I did, and it was for a therapist actually, and it was great. She definitely came in with some self-consciousness, but I was able to get her comfortable near the end, and she was like, I feel really comfortable right now. And I'm like, yeah, you're doing really great. And I'm like, every time you hear the click of my camera, you can try like a different move. And she was like, you know,
Ooh.
she was kind of moving around.
Yeah.
She was doing different moves. And like,
Oh, wow.
I was like, you're really good. You could be a model. And she was like, no. And like, you know, I guess traditionally, like in a sense, she's just like, I don't know. To me, she is beautiful,
Yeah,
right?
right.
You try to capture that beauty, even if they're maybe not a size 0 or size 6, or they have perfect skin, poreless skin. I think I was in that moment, I was like, a model in a society, I feel the whole term needs to be redefined as not like this ideal model, but someone who is literally just comfortable in their own skin.
Right.
Because that's when you're the most beautiful.
Right.
When when someone is comfortable in their own skin, that's like so beautiful and attractive in a person.
Yeah,
Right.
very true.
Versus, but we're given this idea that we have to have this ideal model look that fits an archetype of a certain look.
Right.
And then people become very uncomfortable. And then that's...
Yeah, because they're holding themselves to this standard that is like, yeah, it's not really achievable. But when you saw her in that moment, like when you were like, yeah, you could be a model, you meant that, because you're just like, wow, like you're beautiful, you're doing it. Like she impacted you in that way. Yeah, she
wasn't stiff, you know?
Right.
She was just like comfortable in her skin.
Right. She's not restricted.
I'd like to ask, I got you, Kelsey, to take my own headshots, which I'm very thankful for, because they've been like amazing to apply for a bunch of different things for, and I have them, so I love it. But what did you see when you were taking my photos? In what we've been discussing, how was I? What energy was I giving you in that moment?
It was that was a really interesting day, because you were having a really hard day that day. Something had come up with your dad, and so you were like, your eyes were kind of red because you had been crying earlier. Yeah. And you were like, you kept...
just expose me.
Well, you asked the question.
Yeah. Boys cry.
All the time.
Men cry too.
And I mean, I find you as a person to be so open and so like very, very soft and like receptive and like willing to be vulnerable. That's something I've always really respected about you, is that you're willing to be vulnerable first. Whereas a lot of the time, I'll be like, yeah, I'll be vulnerable if I see that you be vulnerable first, and then I'll be willing. But you've always been willing, even when I hardly knew you. You're like, yep, here's me, like just very welcoming in that way. And it was interesting because even that day when you were having a really, really hard time, you were still, and I was so impressed by this, you were still open and vulnerable. You were like, you told me what was going on. You're like, you literally said to me, I don't want to be here right now, which I fucking loved. And you were like, yeah, I'm not like in a happy sort of like uplifted mood. And I was like, that's great, because we're here to like capture something honest. We're here to capture you in this moment, and I don't need you to like pretend to be something different. And so, yeah, I feel like that's, I guess like that honesty and that vulnerability is what I saw that day. And it's not easy. It's not easy to like stay open when you're in pain. And so I really appreciated that.
Another part of me is thinking like, some people would be like, if they had a hard day, they'd be like, I'm bailing. Like, I can't come to a shoot. Why did you come to the shoot, Gerardo? You're like,
I mean, I think I'd hired her. You know, so part of it is like, I can't just like...
That's true.
Bail. I don't know. I remember like walking there to my friend's house who had asked for you to shoot at, and that long walk gave me time away from just the terrible day to be like, give me a little bit of time and perspective to just kind of be like, okay, yes, this is this horrible emotion and feeling I'm going through, but I have a friend who has agreed to take my photo, and she's good, and this will be valuable. This could be a headshot for later. So some practical things started sneaking in beyond the fact that it's just like, hey, you know, like move past the emotions of this moment, because hey, there's some pretty good headshots on the other side.
Right.
So I guess that's why I try to go through with
obligation.
Yeah.
And now that brings me to a thought too, because you have told me about some of your film ideas, and one of them kind of, I believe, is loosely or inspired by your mother, and kind of loosely the tale about her coming, like leaving her country. So that's a whole topic we could talk about. And I'm also curious about Kelsey, if you found, like, are there any stories in your past that you feel are reflected in your work? Or is that a bit different with design and photography versus filmmaking, you think?
I'll think about my answer while Gerardo's.
Oh, am I answering that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kelsey will think about her answer.
I mean, I'll listen while you're talking, but I'll let it marinate.
I'm sorry. Can you just like ask it to me one more time?
So, that just brings up to the whole same question of upbringing and our roots. How, like, for you, do you think it's very valuable as an artist to bring your origin stories into your work? Do you have a pretty strong connection with that? Like maybe a percentage of work that you want to create that you think is based off, like, you know, your mother's experience, your experience versus like more maybe client-based work, or but in your kind of goal of filmmaking, do you think you'll be bringing those stories of your past and maybe your roots?
Yes. I mean, it's like it has been like a growing influence on my own filmmaking that is digging into my own past and experiences, trying to understand them, if they're hurts and pains there or joy, to see what they mean to what I want to make now. And some of that does crystallize in like a solid project, like the one you referenced about just my mother coming to Canada and why I'm even here in this country. I feel is quite miraculous because of her journey through it. So in a sense, I feel indebted to share that, to it is just on a simple level, the immigrant story of so many here in the city. But on me, it's like the reason I'm alive, the reason I'm sitting here with all of you, the reason that I've even had the chance and the opportunity to study film and dig into it. So I felt it was a bit of a indebted to that fact. And now more and more, I feel myself like trying not to like replicate or dig into my experience and like show that on film, but to understand my past and what it means to me on a very simple level, and then how that articulates through my artwork, right? That could be in many different forms. I'm trying to think of something practical to give it a sense of. I think the whole topic of like what we want to put our energy to, what we want to do, we want to love what we do. We don't necessarily just want to do it for the money because we have to get by. And a lot of that is tied to like, oh, I have to do this because it is helping somebody else. It is helping someone else in my position or something similar to understand their past, their parents' past, and what that means to them now. You know, I see a lot of my own friends, some friends that are Hispanic in background as well, don't even have that language and have lived with their parents all their lives. And that's like one small little example of like, you know, like this cultural, this heritage that should be passed on but isn't. And I feel like me taking up that mantle in regards to filmmaking is the best way I can express that, aside from just being like straight out practical and being like, I'm going to teach my friend Spanish and blah blah blah. Maybe there's this
Teach us Spanish.
yeah, but maybe there's this other way I can articulate it so that it can reach out to them, right? That's kind of all I got.
That makes sense. Like you're going to give them kind of a cathartic experience, like a framework so that they can understand their own experiences. Is that kind of what you're saying?
A little bit, yeah. But what's funny is that even in like the short film that I have made at film school, when I showed my friends, a lot of my friends aren't necessarily, some of them like films, they'll come watch movies with me. But when I show them, they're just like, hey, that's cool. Right. And you know, it's just like a glossing thing that they'll move past. And that my longing to like help them understand my mother struggled and what that meant for them culturally and what that means for them now and why they should value their experience in their life doesn't translate. And I'm like, oh, okay, am I using the right words? Am I using the right tools? Am I using the right imagery? Right now, that's my journey, is
Right.
like, why even step further into film if I can't even communicate to like the ones I love,
Right.
which is odd enough.
But it's yeah.
Those are really good questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, sometimes I think about like planting seeds. Like sometimes if people are not kind of ready to get that message, or they're not receptive to it, in that moment, they might not be like, yeah, I get it. But there's been things that people have said to me in the past, or things that I've seen in the past. In the moment, I was like, whatever, it's whatever. I don't really care about it. And then like 5 years later, I'll be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then that,
Wow.
like, watching that film or hearing that piece of advice kind of closes the loop for me.
Wow.
And it does help. So sometimes that instant feedback is not always the most accurate.
Sure, that's a
right?
good point.
Like it might be sinking in later.
Yeah. Interesting.
But I do love that you're approaching filmmaking from like that kind of design thinking perspective, where you're like, no, I have a message I want to communicate, and I'm going to try to get it across.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I think also it is a miracle to like be here.
Right.
Whoa. What do
You
you
know?
mean?
It is.
Like it is a miracle to even be able to walk. I was reading like what Thich Nhat Hanh, and he was like, it is a miracle to walk, to like be able to exist and not be targeted, like in our experience at least, like that we can freely come to this podcast today and chat without feeling like we're in danger.
Holy shit. That's crazy. That's true. Like the only oppression we feel is like internal oppression and not like literal oppression.
Yeah,
Right.
we are blessed in that sense.
Ooh,
For sure.
Yeah.
That's true.
But yes, back to you, Kelsey.
Oh, what's up?
About, do you find like, I feel like I want to interview, Gerardo needs a whole episode.
Oh my God, yeah. Let's do an
On
episode
his
where
story.
I interview you guys. I would love that. I have so many questions. I feel like the way that I kind of communicate my story or my familial story is more about like not to throw my parents under the bus, because our parents fucked all of us up in their own way. And they did a really great job, I think. Not at fucking us up, but like they did a good job of parenting. But what I think a lot of the themes in my work, especially I think the more expressive mediums that I use, like music or writing, I think music and writing are my expressive kind of tools that I use sort of therapeutically on myself. A lot of the themes that come up are things that I have battled that stem from my childhood or stem from my upbringing. Like a lot of themes of being asked to be small and to be quiet and to be accommodating, to like not be too much, not to be too invigorating.
Were you in did you have a religious background by any chance?
No. I would say that like the main stem of a lot of that is just like, I would say just like cultural kind of stuff. Like my parents, they just had like stricter upbringings.
Not that being religious makes you feel small, but I have heard patterns
for sure.
From other friends as
yeah,
well.
I do. Yeah, and I do think, it's hard to point to like something really specific, but I just think that, that comes up a lot for me, and like just trying to give myself permission to be loud and to be extravagant is something that I try to work on. So, and I know that that's not necessarily like a narrative thing. Like your story has such a strong narrative pull to it. I think mine's a little more internalized, and it is familial, because a lot of the stuff that our parents passed down to us, they got from their parents. Like my dad's like cowboy father that grew up in rural Alberta, like never taught him how to express himself or let his emotions come out and breathe. So there's no way that would get passed on to me. So there is sort of a lineage aspect, but I think it's a little more emotional for me.
Do you think about that looking forward? And I mean, maybe it's too big to say kids and whatever, but is art a lineage you want to pass on?
Whoa. What do you mean?
Like not even just kids, but in who you inspire in your work.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I feel like I would love to help people express themselves without fear or shame. I feel like that's a big theme for me in art. Just like you are inherently good, and therefore the art that you make is inherently good. And you don't need to edit it, and you don't need to make it palatable for people. You just have to let it out, because at your core you are good, and that is the opposite of shame. So I feel like if I can help facilitate that in any way, I will.
Wow. And I think you do that. I mean, like as you describe in your portraits and giving people this other perspective that they didn't even have or think that they looked like, you know, that's already huge. That's already like a lineage and a legacy to look at.
Thank you. That's nice.
Yeah.
My legacy.
Kelsey's legacy.
That's the name of the podcast.
I was just going to say Chelsea's legacy.
Kelsey's legacy.
It has a ring to it.
Right. That'll be the name of my memoir.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I love that.
Kind of a fun question, maybe. If you could photograph
Ooh.
anyone, who do you want to photograph?
Okay, honestly, my first thought is David Bowie. It really is. I know that he's dead, but
Yeah,
like, how fun.
that'd be really fun.
No, go ahead.
Yeah?
Yeah. No, yeah, that's a great one.
Okay, what about? You know what else I was gonna say?
Who?
Donald Trump.
Oh,
Interesting.
interesting.
Try to look at Donald Trump through the eyes of love.
Oh
Yeah. Isn't that like the ultimate challenge?
Yeah.
Like look at someone that's like deemed unlovable
Yeah,
and do it anyways.
exactly.
Huh.
That'd be a good challenge.
Yeah.
Imagine Donald Trump as a little baby, and his
No
mom.
kidding.
And his mom loved him so much.
I remember in this psychology course that I was taking, it was like intro 104 or something like that. But in the textbook, in the chapter header, it was this really beautiful little excerpt about like this artist who never got to realize his potential, and his mother put him in artistic classes, and he was this beautiful painter, and he was going to go to study it as he grew older, but life kind of got in the way, and he didn't get the chance to fulfill that. And at the very end of that excerpt, you're like, wow, what a story. That'd be amazing. And it's Adolf Hitler.
Right.
And you're like,
yeah.
what the fuck? What? Like, did I just empathize for
Right.
him? Did I
Like,
like,
no, shut that off.
care for him? Right.
I should
But-
never care for him.
Yeah,
No.
but it is. Yeah, should we? Should we care for that little Adolf?
That's a
that
very-
little Trump?
That's a very philosophical question, isn't it?
Very philosophical, but everyone has like a point in their life where they choose, but there are breaking points, and we can't say that we know what anyone's going through.
No. I think you have to hold people accountable to their actions, otherwise
Right.
society falls apart. But it doesn't have to be a moral issue. Like, it doesn't, like, speaking of religion, that definitely stems from a religious history of like, you're bad, you're good. End of
Sure.
story. Fundamentally, you're bad. Like,
Yeah.
who could be fundamentally bad?
Or when, I don't know, it's hard to see like when institutions came into place, like how they twist the words of religion.
Right.
Because a lot of them do have like
That's true.
messages of peace. There are messages of violence too.
That's
of
true.
course, because life is duality and everything coexists together. But yeah, like when institutions and any sort of money come into play,
Right. Power.
like the church, like I don't know what the main church is called, but
The main church.
what is the church
mean-
called?
Is a
The Roman Catholic Church,
Yeah, I
The
mean that would be
Vatican.
like the Catholic
the Vatican,
one.
yeah, and like just changing, I think, Jesus from
Right.
like a human type
Yes.
figure to a more divine figure who has no flaws.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Like what that kind of ties into divinity too. Like why does divinity have to be defined by being flawless? I don't know.
Mm.
Or is it flawless? Does it have to be flawless?
Yeah.
Does art? I don't know. So many questions.
Man.
Yeah.
How are we all feeling too?
Yeah, we're at like well over 2 hours now.
Okay.
We've done really well.
We've done a really great job.
incredible conversation.
I'm feeling the sweat lodge effect. Like,
Right.
I really feel like I'm purging my demons right now.
Maybe that was part of it.
Whoa.
Just being
What's
in
in
here.
this drink?
It's actually ayahuasca.
Oh, wow.
So it'll hit you in 30 minutes and you're not coming back.
We're going to be doing this for another 6 hours.
Yeah. You will defecate yourself, but it's part of the ride.
No problem. I signed up for that.
Good. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that's a beautiful place to wrap it up.
Yeah.
I
Closing
think,
remarks?
Unless you had any other questions or anything you wanted to throw out before.
I
Kelsey?
yes.
Mm-hmm.
as feedback for our first podcast,
Mm-hmm.
these noobs. Well, you're not a noob. You're actually could be a professional podcast speaker.
Oh, thank
You got the rhythm to become one, to be one. You are one. And
If you keep your chin up, you're going to do it. You're going to get there, kid.
yes. Any questions that you wish we asked?
Oh,
Ooh, that's a good one.
honestly, no. Honestly, no. I feel like
How's your sex life? I'm just kidding. I'm just
Banging, it's
kidding.
it's off the fucking chain. No, I honestly feel like what I really liked about this is that all the loops feel like they're closed. You know, I don't feel like anything was sort of left dangling. So I appreciate that. And yeah, I admire and respect you guys as artists.
Do you wish there was some questions we didn't ask?
No, I don't think so. I do wonder about like pricing stuff for me personally. Like I wonder how helpful that is for people. I do know that it is helpful.
Right.
So yeah, I think like, yeah, it's good to be put out of my comfort zone a little bit with that.
And just so people are aware, like you can't just take whatever price she said and
Right.
apply it to yourself.
Yes.
She's really good and she was
Wow.
worthy of what she's charging. So keep in mind that there's a lot of skill and training and trial and error that's behind that.
That's
right?
true.
I think you had a question, Gerardo. It was more well phrased. Like, what is your relationship between creativity and finances?
Right.
Which
Yeah,
I
that might be a
think-
good one to go into.
is, yeah, it's a struggle
Yeah.
because it's like, how do you balance
If I-
creativity and living without starving and even living so that you can hang out with friends, because it takes money sometimes to hang out with friends.
That's true.
Right. Yeah.
The best advice
Not
that
all the
anybody
time,
best
but-
advice anybody ever gave me when I was starting out with my pricing is take what you think that you're worth and then double it.
Oh wow.
Straight up.
Nice.
And because I was charging like $100 at the time.
like
so-
a session.
I don't know. Like just so low. Like basically
Okay.
nothing. Like
Yeah.
I'll do it for free.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, here's another thing I can say about money. I love that this is what I didn't want to talk about and now I'm talking about it more. But I'm actually excited to say this. People can always afford to give you something for your work. Even if it's
Right.
like just never work for free, period. Even if it's for a friend, especially if it's for a family member. Holy shit.
Oh, trigger.
I feel like we've all been there. The family member that wants you to work for free, or the friend that wants you to work for free.
Sure.
They don't know. Like,
Friends are like, what's your rate? And they're like, never mind.
You can't
Right.
afford
you
me.
can't afford me, even if it's $50, just so that they're invested.
You're right.
Because
right.
the people who have been the most difficult for me to work with are the ones that I worked for free for.
Wow.
Because there's no investment from them. There's no commitment. So, just give it a try.
Cool.
Not for you guys, but like for the hundreds of
Yeah.
listeners out there,
Hundreds of listeners. out
millions,
Throngs.
And-
throngs.
there. Yeah, I don't want to wrap it up on logistical things.
Okay.
but-
No, I kind of actually wanted to create a little bit of an opportunity for yourself, Kelsey. This is probably something I should have run past you, but I was thinking like, what an interesting opportunity to create collaboration. So first off, are you open and willing to that? That is, to anyone else out there, we could say, hey, this is where we can find you. This is my
Oh.
work. If you were interested in any way, not just to like hire me, but to collaborate in any sense.
Yeah.
Would you
Of
be
course,
interested in doing
of
that?
course.
Cool. So where can people find you on the interwebs?
Here's my home address. Here's my phone number. I would say my website is kelsey-mcmillan.com.
We'll put that somewhere. right
Yeah.
there.
And you know what? Everything else
Nice.
branches out from there. So that's all you really need.
Cool.
I have one more question too.
Yeah.
How did you come up with your Instagram name, North of Nearby?
Oh, I saw that on your list too.
Interesting.
I came
Nice.
up with it when I was 17 years old. And I thought it sounded cool.
It does.
Thank you.
It does. It's like it's north of somewhere. You know.
Right. I think I like
it's
a
a little mysterious.
It's exactly. I like how whimsical it is.
Yeah.
It's like, do you really know where you are?
Ooh.
Yeah.
And on that note, do we really know? Where
Do you
we are?
really know? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, go ahead. Did you have anything?
Well, I think we have to film ourselves eating donuts. That's
Oh,
about
we
it.
might
Okay.
as well. Yeah.
Let's have a donut party.
Let me.
I just wanted to
Yes.
lastly just say, is there anything you wanted to share? Anything you wanted to say about anything really, art, yourself, what you have coming up? Yeah. the floor is open for you.
Oh, we forgot so many questions.
I know. We suck.
That's
but
okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. The conversation goes where it goes.
It goes
We
where
can
it goes.
have a second one with her down
That's
the road.
true. Part
That's
two. Part
true.
two. I hope there's my closing remark is that I hope there's a part two. And
Okay.
I'm really excited for the future of this podcast, whatever its name may be.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, what was the one we ran into? It was like loving through loving eyes.
Oh,
Something like that.
the eyes of love.
Whoa! I'm in love with that now. I'm in love with that now.
Eyes of love.
Okay.
Okay.
And on that note, thank you everybody for joining and tuning in. We'll catch you next time on episode 2.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. I didn't look in the camera one time.